This video is to explain why I went to Cambodia. So it may have appeared like a huge departure from the regular programming when I did a series of videos about Cambodia, but I have my reasons. So in this video, I'll just delve into them a little bit. It all started with a promise I made in a video about 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was titled Why Vietnamese Should Help Cambodians, and in that video I spoke about how I had this feeling of needing to contribute to the community there in Cambodia just because of the great way that I was received in the country every time I'd been there. Even though the Cambodians are not as smart as Vietnamese, we shouldn't look down on them, because I view them as a brother nation, same as Laos and Chinese. Cambodia has suffered a lot throughout its history and is still suffering from their past. The USA being the main instigator behind the genocides by bombing the countryside and driving the population into the arms of the Khmer Rouge. Every one of these vloggers that comes to Cambodia, they always talk about the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot and the genocides, and that's all they talk about, but they don't discuss the actual genesis of the genocide, which was the American bombing of the Cambodian countryside. That's what drove all the Cambos into the arms of the Khmer Rouge, ties to Pol Pot. And the genocides ended decades ago, but Cambodia is still feeling the effects, because basically a whole generation of their best, the cream of the crop in Cambodia, was wiped out. Because in the genocide, the people that are getting wiped out aren't the run-of-the-mill sheep that follow orders. The bravest people get wiped out, the people that are the most rebellious. Basically anyone with a brain got a bullet through it. Even though numbers don't always tell the whole story, but I'll hit you with a few numbers to try and emphasize. Life expectancy in Australia, it's 82.4. In Vietnam, it's 73.9. But in Cambodia, lagging far behind on 65.2 years. Basically not going to get the pension if they're Australians. Another key indicator, the number of underweight infants under 5 years old in Australia, it's hovering around 0%, contrasted with Cambodia at a whopping 24.1%. Vietnam sandwiched somewhere in the middle at 14.1%, which is still pretty huge, but I think they're putting that down day by day. Here's a pretty lopsided statistic here, the maternal death rate. In Australia, it's 6 deaths per 100,000 births. In Cambodia, it's 160 deaths per 100,000 births. That's astronomical. Vietnam is doing a lot better at 43 deaths. Cambodia's even got a pretty low literacy rate at 80%, which contrasts with the 94.5% in Vietnam. And because of all the cullings and genocides, the median age in Cambodia is a low 25.7 years of age. Vietnam at 30.9, also affected by war, and Australia 38.8 median age, 38.8 years. One statistic which is very surprising is the percentage of urbanization. In Australia, it's 86.1% and only 23.8% in Cambodia. So most of the population still living in the countryside. Similar to Vietnam, which ranks 36.6% urbanization rate. I had this feeling of needing to contribute to the community there in Cambodia just because of the great way that I was received in the country every time I'd been there. For the short stints that I'd been there, I'd always been amazed by how welcoming the local Cambodian people were and how friendly the Khmer people were to me, and I really appreciated that. So I made a mental note to come back and try to contribute to the country in whatever way I could in the future. Another reason is I think the people there are more needy in a way than Vietnamese, because Vietnam as a nation I just see has a much brighter future than Cambodia, maybe because of human capital or whatever you want to call it. But I think Vietnam is only a country with a setback, i.e. the war, and it is on a very firm road to recovery, whereas Cambodia, it just seems quite rudderless. The community there, they're beset by a lot of problems that will fester when you're weakened and you don't have a strong adult population to guide, the community. A lot of social ills are really flourishing there. I'm not going to delve into them because it's a bit dark, but it's known for attracting the wrong sort of people. So I wanted to contribute in a positive way to the community there. And I know a lot of Vietnamese say that Cambodians don't like Vietnamese, blah blah blah, but that shouldn't even come into the equation, because I understand that there's some misgivings on both sides, and the Vietnamese are just more cunning, so they've been more easily able to provoke the Cambodians to voice their misgivings. So on the surface it appears that there's this friction from the Cambodian side, whereas it's actually the Vietnamese that provoke it, film it, and the Cambodians that they get on film are not sophisticated enough to be defensive with their words. So there's that. And also another reason I wanted to do the Cambodia series was there's so many blatant lies that have been, I don't know how, they've been able to still exist on the internet. Like that guy's blog, very famous blog about Cambodians being the laziest nation on earth, being the most violent country on earth, blah blah blah. Just these blatant lies. You'll see that it is very safe for foreigners, but people say, why don't you ignore it? You can't really ignore it because other people have made reference to those writings. Like, as I said, the first time I read it was in the comment section of my page, and I've read other blogs that reference this guy's works, and even people are second guessing themselves, saying, oh yeah, I felt safe, but I guess it could be true what Traveling Mark was saying, that you only see the real dirty side of Cambodia once you get out of the tourist trail. So he's put this kind of smart, clever defense, because mostly when you're a tourist, you're going to 95% of the time or 100% of the time, you're going to be around the touristy areas or be around the big cities. And he said, oh, that doesn't prove anything. That doesn't prove it's safe. You got to go out into the outback of these little towns. Yeah, the streets are abandoned at night, pretty much, compared to Vietnamese streets. So, I mean, how many people are going to do that? Even in your own city, you don't just go off the beaten track into some weird, sparsely populated area. So he covered his butt there. But I actually spoke to a lot of people that did do that, and they said the same thing, that it was totally safe, and the people were very friendly, inviting them to food, etc. So you rented a bike by yourself?
Yeah.
And then you rode out in Cambodia by yourself?
Yeah.
And it wasn't dangerous?
No.
You don't think it's dangerous?
No.
Because many people, they say never to ride a motorcycle in Cambodia. The people are dangerous. They will murder you and stuff, rob you.
No, I asked him because I didn't want to ride in the dark.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I was thinking about. And he said, you only need to drive a little careful because light is not that bright.
Yeah. But what about your overall impression of Cambodia? You think it's dangerous or not?
Not at all.
Not at all? No. No, the people aren't rude or anything?
No, not at all.
No,
No,
not at all.
not at all.
Because some people say like they hate foreigner, they try to rob you.
No,
No?
no.
Interesting, that's good.
I definitely don't think so. Yesterday when I went to this cave,
But how long have you been in Cambodia though?
right now about 2 weeks.
2 weeks, and no bad experience, no danger.
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Yesterday when I went to this cave, there is this one restaurant, and I was walking a little close to the tables because I wanted to see what they eat. If there's something I might like, because I don't like this food here.
Yeah, some of the
And
foods.
this family says, come, and they offered me a place on their table, and
that's
they gave
good.
me the food, and they gave me water, and
It's so
was
friendly.
great. It was really, really friendly. They just invited me for food. They
'Cause
have nothing and they give, and we have so much, and we just keep it.
Yeah, because there's this guy that writes a very famous blog, you know, the blog on the internet. You know, like on the internet.
Yeah.
The blog. This guy, he's from America, but he said Cambodia is the most dangerous country, and the people, they're all, you know, they hate foreigners. They will, like, there's no law, there's no justice, and he said that you can never travel alone, or else you will get, like, you know, just. That's not been your experience?
No, not
okay.
at all. Definitely not at all. And I talked to different people during the trip and before, and they all said the same. The people are so friendly.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to like kind of put an alternative narrative out there, even though I probably wasn't that effective, but you know, it was worth a shot.
Okay.
The other reason was, I just think it's a great holiday destination.
Bye bye. Next time I'll come back.
You know, it's got a lot of pros going for it. It's very cheap.
We are out.
There's good, clean air, for the most part, maybe. The people are very hospitable, very friendly. You see a lot of smiles just from service workers, etc. Because you're a tourist, you know, and they just seem more grateful to have tourists in the country or have travelers visit. Yeah, I mean, maybe because it's so impoverished that they really value every travel dollar or tourist dollar. But got a good vibe. And there's very cheap accommodation. I mean, the city I stayed at, Bong, there's the accommodation was just so crazy cheap, and you get a high standard for that money, like $7, $8, $9, $10 US. You were getting like your own room with hot water, Wi-Fi, clean, no roaches, balcony, window, fresh air, fan. Didn't get an aircon unless you wanted to pay extra. I think it was like $12. Yeah, it was brilliant. Different to Phnom Penh though, because I paid $10 for one, and as I spoke briefly about, there was roaches everywhere, and it was just like horrible. So yeah, it's really once you get out of the capital city, you start seeing the real Cambodia, I guess, even though that term's a bit overused. This is just a quick video just explaining why I was in Cambodia, because a lot of people seem to be confused. So that was it. Just a pledge that I made about 3 years ago. And at that time, I'd only had short stints in Cambodia, and I always, meant to come back and stay for a long time and just kind of soak up what the country's about and kind of see the people and try to contribute something, because I felt, we'd done a lot for Vietnam and absolutely nothing for our neighbor across the border. And as I spoke about in that video 3 years ago, which might not be a popular notion, I personally do consider the Lao, the Cambodians, the Chinese, and a few others to be brothers. Because that's why I was so shocked when I heard that you took a bike and just rode by yourself to small towns, because he was saying if you go out to the real Cambodia, you will get a really bad experience. Like he said, the reason everyone thinks it's safe is everyone stays in the foreigner area, and he said if you go by yourself, you'll get messed up, by the locals and stuff like that. And so that's why I was surprised when you told me you
When I was
took a bike by
there
yourself.
Today, the kids come and wave.
Yeah.
and all the people just smile at you, and they're nice.
Interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to get your perspective because, you know, this blog is very like famous, and a lot of people quote this guy to say, don't come to Cambodia. Many people don't travel to Cambodia after reading this blog and hearing like how dangerous, how bad the people are. And I have the same experience as you. I thought, this is not like the way this guy is portraying the country. That's been my experience. They've been very appreciative of, you know, like tourists and travelers here. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for your perspective. It's really cool.